Good morning, everyone, and very much welcome to Amsterdam FinTech Week 2021. It's a really special year, of course, with COVID, so we're all behind our screens, but we still want to keep updated to everything that's going on in FinTech. And so we're very happy to be able to welcome you all to the Amsterdam FinTech Week. This time, not between the canals, not on the terrace, not in the people's offices, but online. But the enthusiasm is there, the people are there, and we're very much looking forward to welcome you here, share everything that's going on in the FinTech field, tell you more about what's going on, how we can benefit all from all the FinTech solutions that are out there, address all the challenges that are there with them, ethical discussions, challenges with regard to risk, and how to keep up with all the changes in such a way that we could all keep safeguard the financial system and at the same time benefit from it by empowering entrepreneurs, empowering people, and making sure we do the right things. We're very much looking forward to this whole week. And as you may have seen that last Friday, we've kicked off the session with a big little preview. And today we've also got an outstanding program to really take you through and make sure that you have a really good sight on everything that's going on in FinTech. And today we're going to look especially at the financial life of consumers. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But I'll first introduce my special guest also today, Douwe Lycklama. Douwe, good morning.
Morning, Don.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, great. It's really great to be part of this highlight of Holland FinTech. And good morning. Happy to be here.
Exactly. Great to have you here. Douwe is, you could almost say one of the founding fathers of the fintech movement in the Netherlands. With INNOPAY, they have been on the route of many financial innovations that we've seen over the past years. And now he's actually serving also as the chair of the board of Holland FinTech. And so I'm really happy to be able to work with you in that perspective, Douwe. And great to have you here as well. So, what are your expectations of the board, of the Amsterdam FinTech Week?
Yeah, the expectation is that you guys have, I know you have put in a lot of work, and to have a full scope deep dive on the total FinTech topics and the scene. So looking at the program, the outset looks very good, well thought of, very structured, and I think everyone can find his own angle in this coming week. So yes, it's a bit special that we do it again digitally, but I think we all scaled up. Our skills went up the last 12 months. Yeah. So we're pretty confident that it will turn out good. It's the preparation has been tremendous. I know. So
yeah, no, I think we're really happy also with your support here. And so what do you think about also the way that we structured the week? So with the themes, right? So it really tries to give a bit of an outside-in view of FinTech. Like today, we're going to talk more about how consumers are experiencing all the changes that FinTech brings about. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that is that the consumer is, of course, a very pivotal actor. But let's put it more the human, because it's the consumer in his capacity as a person. That can also be a user in the capacity of his of his company. And what we've seen is that in the last 20 years, we have learned a lot of new things as persons, right? We interacted a lot with new sorts of technologies. We learned how to send messages, to do online banking, to all sorts of new behavior. And I think this is not the end. We will still need a lot of behavioral change the coming decades going forward. So taking this as a focal point is very important. And there looking at the topics, for example, I see here consumer adoption of cryptos. That is already a whole new area where I think the financial industry can play a big role in making that a more seamless experience for the consumer, for example. And another topic is consumers dealing with their data. I think that is a thread going through every program point. That is a big thing. I see that the movement that consumers, persons and companies will become more in control of their data and want to be more in control of the data.
I think it's also, you're one of the advocates of actually rather saying like we should maybe talk less about money but more about data and educate people at that level, right? Because it's quite a challenging field to sort of make it tangible. The data is even less tangible than money, but it might even be more important.
True, because in the world we live in today, the data about money is already value. And so we only exchange information when we go into a shop, we buy something, it's only information. So that information is valuable. So why not other parts of information? Can't we attribute value on that? And that is a domain fintech is extremely important for, because fintech is very well suited to deal with value, to deal with trust, to deal with scale. And that is, I think, a huge huge opportunity for the whole industry at large. And I hope that this week will again bring us a bit further into the future, because it's about finding the strong undercurrents in, and I think you guys in the program really try to find the undercurrents of this year, 2021, and some of them will remain also for 2022 and 23, but there will be new ones becoming more important. So you probably must have some kind of crystal ball, or some crystal radar in which you put all your developments. How do you do that?
So I think let's say what we of course do as facilitators of the network of Holland FinTech is we talk a lot with people and try to understand what their concerns are, where they believe things are heading, and try to distill from that perspective, sort of a general direction. And that's what we try to incorporate now in this field, because I think that's what we would want to share, because I think that's sort of I think the perspective that we have is that we're sort of in a little helicopter above the masses, where we can see a little bit how things are moving from a different perspective, and hopefully that helps if we feed that back to everyone again, to give them a sense of direction, right? So it's and I think that's especially this year was also where I think that sometimes we also try to take a little bold step, maybe a bit forward even further than where most of the people are. And I think in this case, it's really about how do we get more people involved in this industry, right? So I think still a lot of people find it a too complex matter to care about or to dive into. While if you look at all the tooling, it's highly relevant for people to be knowledgeable about this, from both an opportunity as well as from a risk perspective. I think people need to be aware of what money looks like these days, what shape it takes, what shape the services take, to fully be self how to put it, to basically be able to manage it themselves, right? To really have control over their financial life, you need to be aware of a little bit of what's under the hood. And I think that's why it's important that we keep on telling this story as well to a broader audience and give people the power to make use of it in a proper way. Yeah.
Hey, and looking back at the last 12 months, how did you and Holland FinTech look at the whole digital situation where we were catapulted in? More than 1 year ago. What happened last year?
No, it's quite a bumpy ride. I think that, of course, we've seen that also if you look at the member base of Holland FinTech, we saw some companies struggle, some companies accelerated enormously and went through the roof. And let's say sometimes it was a sheer matter of luck who was actually doing well and who was doing less well. I think in general, to generalize it a bit, you could say that companies with established relationships, client relationships, were able to extend those and grow on the back of that. So the ones that didn't need validation anymore, they could grow very well. The ones that were still a stage earlier and were still looking for validation of their product and still had to build their client relationships had a tougher time, because that was, when we were still used to doing everything physically, the online world didn't immediately pose a good surrogate for that. And I think we also, as an organization, had to adapt to that. On one hand, of course, the way that we serve people, how do we help people build trust online, and how do we as well ourselves on something that we do, which is highly social, right? Bringing people together to understand where the world is heading. How do we bring that into a digital world?
Yeah, Great, and I think, and also another important noteworthy point is that you also decided to have a board, indeed, and that since the beginning of the year, the clear direction is to even engage our members even more, and to bring Holland FinTech to the next level. And actually, as a board, we are meeting monthly with you and the team to work out and to build on the plan and to make that progress and to really bring Holland FinTech towards even more engagement and deepening all the topics and keeping this whole radar and the crystal ball in sync with the reality. So
no, I think indeed that's definitely also partly sparked by the whole COVID crisis, because we also felt there that it actually became harder to make Holland FinTech as a network work not just for members but also by members, right? So we felt also that there the infrastructure for that just wasn't good enough, and so I think there actually having you as a board on board helps a lot to actually make sure that we have much better feeling with what our members need. And actually be able to activate everyone much better to create a better program. So that's what I'm really happy about. So from that perspective as well, we're really in the phase of Holland FinTech 2.0 that started this year, and I think also there, I think this the whole week there is a good example of where things are heading, because I think we've really been able to professionalize also the whole setup of Amsterdam FinTech Week this year.
Yeah. And it gives a good hopes for also next years and the years after that. In which engagement will increase by the members, indeed.
No, for sure. Maybe it would be nice to just briefly touch upon the program again for today, because we've got, of course, we've got a very special speaker coming up very soon. Her Majesty Queen Máxima, who should appear on stage any moment. But the rest of the day is also filled with great speakers. We've got Robin Kira, who on behalf of YTS is doing a keynote later today. We've got the Social FinTech Alliance, who organizes a session. We've got one session on financial distress and financial stress with people from Moneywise and Schuldenlab and the University of Applied Science of Amsterdam. So we've got quite a nice lineup there. We've got one international feed-in from the FinTech Stage Group, which is a really nice one as well, on some discussions on the European perspective of consumer finance. And the one on crypto that you mentioned, Douwe, is definitely also an interesting one. Definitely a challenging field, I think, where if you see that how the hypes are dragging people in from time to time, definitely a challenge to inform people properly to ensure that they actually know what to do and how to do it, right? Not running too much risk. We've got a presentation from Blanco, Bernadette Weinings, who will close off today, which is also, I think, a really interesting one, as they just recently set up a new deposit bank for exchange goods, which I think is also really interesting, a really unique project. So I'm really curious to listen to her as well. And so it's a really full day of, I think, all kinds of different perspectives of from different angles, looking at how the life of consumers is changing along the way. So I'm looking forward to take you all through there. Let me see if there's the slide perhaps with the overview.
There it magically appears.
Exactly, there it is. Great. Yes, because I know that I was forgetting about a couple of them. We've got a carbon footprint calculator by SIA Partners, which I think is also a really interesting one, especially if you talk about especially if you look at how we're actually going to, let's say, you see that there's a strong pressure towards the financial industry to start contributing to a better sustainable environment for business. And so we see that at the same time, we need to think about how do we actually motivate consumers to make the right choices here, because that's something that's still really tough, especially since it's very intransparent very often what implications different choices have. So This is why I really also value the input by SIA partners here, because the carbon footprint calculator is at least it's another step of making clear to consumers what actually is happening, and what is the impact of the choices that you make as a consumer, which I think is quite an important one. Another one that I didn't mention yet is the Frictionless consumer experience by Uipath. Uipath is of course known for its robotic process automation, and so they're really well suited to actually have a discussion about, okay, how do you actually take away the burden from consumers where it's not necessary, like administration that I need to put in, and how do we make life easier on them, and what impact does it actually have on the way that they use your services. And last but not least, of course, we have a couple of startup pitches at the end of the day. Quite some companies have sent in their pitch video, and we've made a nice selection for you to wrap up the day with some inspiration of what some of the new companies are working on. And so I really hope that you will enjoy that discussion. And what we'll also do is we'll actually got a panel discussion just following now the talk that Her Majesty will be giving any moment. Is that we've got a panel discussion with some great speakers as well. Menno van Leeuwen will be the moderator of that session. We've got people from Plate, PayPal, Accenture in that panel, all looking at the perspective of how financial services is changing in the perspective of consumers. So I'm really looking forward to that panel as well. I'm forgetting, by the way, FinTech, who's also part of the panel. So I think that's going to be really great. So what about you, Douwe? Is this something that you would be interested in? Which parts do you think are most interesting from your end?
Well, definitely the crypto, but also the carbon one. It is the whole topic of non-financial data and is becoming a bigger and bigger topic. Even this morning there was an article already in the newspaper related to the Shell court case. Yeah, and that really that financial reporting is not enough anymore, and that having not a good non-financial reporting presents additional liabilities. So it was an article where the accounting sector was featured, and that is definitely a big topic, and certainly also for consumers, and because having court cases for suppliers is just only one side of the equation. And there is definitely also the buying side of carbon heavy materials should also then change, and that is of course changing a lot. There's a huge awareness on climate and climate change. Yeah. So anything which can help there is very welcome, and that data presents again also value. So very good to see this in this program, definitely. Yeah. and then the more in general the whole unification of user experience will be key going forward.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Douwe. I think we've come now to the point that we can introduce Her Majesty Queen Máxima of the Netherlands, as she will be appearing now for a talk. She does that in her perspective as the UN Secretary General's Special Advocate for Inclusive Finance for Development, as well as the Honorary Chair for the Dutch MoneyWise platform and the member of the Dutch Committee for Entrepreneurship. She's well fed into the whole area of fintech, of course, and we're very much looking forward to have her here and make a speech. Good morning, Your Majesty.
Good morning, Mr. Ginsel. Thank you very much for having me here. And it's really a pleasure to join you virtually for the opening of this Amsterdam FinTech Week and to see innovators across the Netherlands, Europe, and beyond coming together. As you just said, in my work as the UN Special Advocate for over a decade, I have seen tech-led innovations are really powerful engines to spur financial inclusion and improve financial health. Telecoms and other digital financial service providers have really helped previously unbanked and underbanked customers leapfrog brick-and-mortar banking across Africa and Asia to access financial services through their mobile phones or the nearest mom-and-pop store agent. Similarly, the innovators gathered here have a tremendous opportunity. Rethinking your business models could really transform the lives of customers in the Netherlands and throughout Europe, especially underserved segments such as small and medium-sized enterprises. This goes beyond simply making services more efficient. Your solutions, your investments, and the inclusive innovation ecosystem that you build together can really be a catalyst for change. That change can enable access to the quality financial services people need to protect themselves against hardships, invest in their futures, and better manage their financial lives. A more user-focused approach to design can really make services more intuitive for customers to learn, use, and gain confidence with their finances. We have already seen many fintech innovators build more accessible and affordable financial services that truly people need. Innovators like Funding Circle and Banking Circle are providing faster and cheaper access to capital using big data and AI analytics to rapidly perform credit ratings for SMEs and disperse instant loans. Fintechs like Factories are helping SMEs quickly turn unpaid invoices into cash flow through their innovative online platform. And intuitive app-based stockbrokers like Books are lowering the barriers to invest in capital markets, making it easier for people to start creating an investment portfolio. So far, we have only seen the tip of the iceberg of what is here possible. Here in the Netherlands, we have nearly universal access to basic financial services. However, gaps remain. This is particularly true for SME finance. For example, the Netherlands has the highest SME bank loan financing gap in the European single market at 22% of GDP. And according to the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business 2020 report, a worst performing indicator for enabling enterprises is getting credit. And the challenge appears to be growing. Over the last 7 years, SME bank finances has declined by 16%. Small ticket loans, loans to female-owned SMEs, and working capital credit have been disproportionately impacted, adversely affecting smaller enterprises the most in these challenging times. The recent trend showing the emergence of many non-bank SME finance providers is thus very positive. This includes venture capital, crowdfunding platforms, fintechs focus on leasing or factoring solutions, and microfinance institutions giving really alternative options. Innovation has a key role in supporting non-bank players to increase competition, to increase outcomes, increase usability, and improve financial options for SMEs. To date, non-bank innovative solutions have mainly focused on filling the gap left by banks for short-term working capital needs for SMEs. From the recent success of credits in supporting small loans to SMEs, we can see that low-cost funding, guarantees, and promotion, when provided strategically by the private and public sector together, not only are in great demand, they also make a difference in serving SMEs' financial needs. Going forward, it will be very important to develop more solutions to address SMEs' long-term financial needs, support their digitization, help them train their staff, and provide them with financial and business advisory support. So beyond loans, firms need also equity financing to improve their solvency and to continue to invest in their businesses. So, in order to have innovation in SMEs, we need innovation in finance. The pandemic has also reinforced the need to build up financial resilience and overall financial health in our population. As in most advanced economies, not all Dutch people were in a strong financial position before the crisis. According to Nibud, in 2018, 38% of Dutch households have difficulty making ends meet. 36% have less than 5,000 euros in savings. And 31% lack enough money to replace two of the most valuable household possessions. Innovators can create tools to help people manage their day-to-day finances, as well as nudge customers to save, compare different financial options, and budget their finances in the short term and the long term so they can really meet future goals. So it is clear that a lot needs to be done in this field. Now, providers, advisors, and investors can create industry standards and codes of conduct to make their practices more inclusive, responsible, and safer. Fintech associations, such as Holland FinTech, can lead by providing a collective voice to regulators on policy changes to encourage innovation. Large companies can support the emergence of new solutions and startups. They can set up fintech hubs, venture funds, and accelerators. Public and private institutions can also drive innovative research to better understand which approaches work and which do not. I'm really pleased that several institutions here are already starting to make some of these steps already. And while improving the regulatory environment is a crucial piece of the puzzle, it is the private sector which will create products that can expand financial inclusion and contribute to customers' financial health. More broadly, if we want inclusive fintech to thrive, there are necessary policies and pieces of infrastructure that need to be in place, what I like to call digital public goods. Some are critical for access, such as connectivity, physical infrastructure, good regulation, and digital IDs. Others make markets work better, for customers, of course, such as creating credit bureaus accessible for both bank and non-bank players, making payment systems interoperable, and ensuring fair competition. And some protect the financial system and its users, such as data privacy, cybersecurity, consumer protection, and digital and financial literacy. This last set is particularly critical to address new risks such as cyber attacks, over-indebtedness, limited digital literacy, and algorithm bias. Issues relevant here in the Netherlands, but also across the world. I'm really eager to see what creative tools you can build together for advanced financial inclusion, but above all, promote the quality of these products, because by promoting the quality of the products, we can really gonna get the outcomes that we want, which is basically no financial stress for people and really opportunities for growth for our SMEs. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty, for this wonderful talk. I'm really honored that you were able to make this conversation here, and I think it aligns very nicely with the mission that we have with Amsterdam FinTech Week, as well as with the FinTech movement as a whole. So thank you very much for these insights and supporting us here. So Douwe, I think it was really spot on what Her Majesty was saying, talking about both the reducing financial stress for consumers on one hand, as well as looking after SMEs to see where the gap is there to solve. I think that's two primary items also on our agenda today. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think our Queen touched upon all the major topics. There was definitely the SME one is the lack of funding by banks is something you read indeed also in the papers. It's well known. I think here crowdfunding can be a very nice alternative, or at least supplementary financing tool. But there was also a sentence which also caught my attention, is about the digital public good topic, that in order to really create this thriving ecosystem, we should not forget about the digital public good, which is the whole world of the standards and of the interoperability and the regulation. It's what can create the substrate for all our economic activity in the financial world, and the financial world has a history in this. It's called market infrastructure. You cannot run a secure world securities system without having some kind of this semi-public good or a payments infrastructure, which is also sort of public good, because there's interoperability and everyone is educated for that. And so I think that that is a strong notion, which I think in everything we do, we should think, if we really want to scale, then that aspect is very very important. And last but not least, the whole innovation agenda is really data driven. That's what you hear again. I mean, having loan applications in a few seconds, you can only do that if you have data, and that is a topic always.
Exactly. No, and at the same time, I think she addresses as well as on some of the challenges that we have with data, because there's still privacy, there's still potential algorithm bias that we need to look after, right? So the decision-making power within financial services companies is really high. They can have a high impact on the life of the people that they make a choice for by giving them access or not to credit, for example. That is also something that we really need to be careful with how to set that off. I think it's time that we wrap this up and we leave the rest of the comments to the panel that's actually just starting right now. So I'd really like to thank you, Douwe, for joining me here, both on welcoming Her Majesty Queen Máxima as well as to kick off today. I hope you enjoyed.
It was my honor.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that. Can we see the slide for, yes, exactly. Here's the panel that's just now kicking off. Menno van Leeuwen will be the moderator. Then we've got Michiel Brewer from Mambu, Kim Un from Accenture, Jeroen de Bel from FinTech, Dan Morgan from Plate, and Joachim Govaert from PayPal. If you are on the Hopin platform, please go to the session where you can see this panel on Global Citizens, the financial life of consumers. You see that kickoff. I really hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the day. I'll be joining you again at 11 for another panel that I'll be moderating, and I'll be watching, of course, the rest. So looking forward to hear from you, talk to you, and enjoy your day.